Welcome to Flip the Script with Vic, a sacred space for honest, unfiltered, and sometimes taboo conversations between women walking the path of truth, healing, and soul remembrance. What started as my personal exploration has become a communal prayer, a podcast devoted to amplifying women's stories in their own words. I'm your host, Victoria Nielsen, intuitive healer, mama, and space holder for the divine feminine. Here, we gather as cycle breakers, mothers, mystics, creatives, witches, and wild ones, flipping the script on what it really means to be a woman in today's world. Through raw interviews, intimate solo casts, and brave conversations, we'll chat about motherhood, mysticism, psychedelics, spirituality, and more. You'll be reminded that your voice matters, that your truth matters, that you're here to walk in beauty. So be the prayer, and let's flip the script. Are you ready? Let's jump on in. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Flip the Script with Vic. It's your host, Victoria Nielsen. I am so excited today. My job is the best job in the world. I get to chat with the most interesting women. Today I have Helen Glanville all the way from Australia up late to chat with me. She's a speaker, an author, a coach, has an amazing story, but also just an amazing energy and presence. We were chatting backstage beforehand and just couldn't even wait to get into the conversation because you were just such a vibe, Helen, and you were talking about your lives of death and rebirth and all the things that you have done. So please introduce yourself to the listeners. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria. It's great to be here from Adelaide in South Australia. And probably some of your listeners don't even have a clue where that might be, but Adelaide is now on the map big time. And I've been living here for just over 40 years. I'm actually a Sydney girl through and through, and I didn't actually think there was any life form outside of Sydney. So I came to Adelaide kicking and screaming at 7 months pregnant. And I was supporting my husband's job and driving a rent-a truck. And I have now two beautiful South Australian sons. So I've been here for that time. In that time, I have worked very closely with the criminal justice system. Now, not very sexy, not very popular, but very needy because we all need a second chance. None of us have been perfect. And there are times in our lives when we've been given a second chance, whether it be through love or emotions or family. But when people have contact with the criminal justice system and they really want to turn around and they really want to change, somebody needs to be there to help them. And as we know, men don't grow up till they're 40. So we then...
Or after, to be honest.
Exactly. There's no limit to that age. But the point is when they do finally come to their senses and they finally say, I really need to become a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, then they need help because they often haven't had that experience or they haven't even had the chance. So, for example, if you've been told all your childhood that you'll end up in prison just like your old man, what sort of chance does that child have? If that child doesn't have a parent encouraging them to even finish their basic education, what chance do they have? And they're isolated and the kids at school tease them because their old man's in prison, that kind of thing. And so they play up and then they start to truant. And the moment they start to truant, they start to slide downhill. And that's where we intervene. That's where we intercept. And that's where we come alongside the child and say, you can make good decisions for your life in a respectful manner for their, knowing that their parents aren't perfect either, nor are their associates. So you may or may not know that crime is 80% drug and alcohol related.
That makes sense when you say it. Like why would it not be? But that, of course, is warping the mind. That's warping how people are able to think clearly or, presently about what they're doing. And I'm also just thinking the whole time while you're talking the history of Australia and, wasn't Australia a penal colony to begin with? Like, does that, maybe my brain is like, this has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but I kind of was like, that's just interesting, an interesting fact, right? Like, so I love that you are so passionate. So is that not true?
Do you want some truth?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the historical facts are that Australia began as a penal colony in New South Wales, which is where I'm from.
Okay, so only in New South Wales.
New South Wales. And
Okay.
then, but in South Australia, it was not a penal colony. They were free settlers.
Ah, okay.
So there's a few differences there, but not a biggie. If you want to broad brush us with being a bunch of convicts, go right ahead. But
No, no. I know I was
South
reading a historical
Australians would,
fiction.
yeah,
Yeah.
but South Australians would take offence at that,
Would
because
they?
oh
Okay.
no, we started
Yeah.
as free settlers. So
Interesting.
the situation with my life is it's a little bit different in so much as I'm married a crim. And not
And
only
you
did
didn't
I
know he was a
marry,
criminal, right?
oh yeah, I knew everything.
You did?
The thing is,
What? Helen, what a
I,
badass. You were like, I know, and I still love you, and I'm here for it. Like,
okay,
oh, I think that's romantic.
okay. So here's the thing. Um, I had been reading in when I was about 19, 20. I was reading all the headlines, and the headlines were saying that this man who was our family lawyer, who I had never met, had taken a one-way ticket to Rio. The credit squeeze was on, interest rates were through the roof. He was a very wealthy man in his own right, but he did a naughty thing as a lawyer and he touched his trust account, which is other people's money, and that's a no-no as a lawyer, okay? So he breached his own code as a professional lawyer, and he was climbing the wall emotionally, mentally, and he bought a one-way ticket to Rio. Now, that in itself says he's on the run, okay? So he was on the run. But you got to understand, this is before my time. This is before I met him. I read all the headlines, and he was a well-known womanizer. He left behind a wife and 3 children. He had taken other people's money. All of it was bad, bad, bad. And then he gets worse because he's over there in Rio and he has about 3 months of freedom, but his girlfriend, his mistress, flies over. He goes to the airport to meet her. Oh, and she happens to have some morphine in her handbag. Now, it was prescription, it was legal, but nevertheless, it drew attention to her. He was there, they look him up, and Interpol wanted him, as they did. So they locked him up. Now, he had not committed a crime in Brazil. No
Yeah, I'll
crime
say
in
it would have
Brazil.
been back where he was. Okay.
They just put him in a hellhole, and I'll describe to you the hellhole. Men lining up like sardines in very dark, damp concrete floor with one hole in the corner for ablutions, and it was not a nice smell. So they were all international people, and he was a well-educated man who only had the jacket or the coat that he was wearing, and that was his bedding on a concrete floor. Now, unfortunately for him, the Australian government did not have an extradition treaty with Brazil.
Okay, I was
All right?
wondering that. Oh.
They said to Brazil, hold on to Glanville because we want an extradition treaty. Well, it didn't come to pass. 15 months later, Jeff is begging the Australian government, take me home. I want to face the music. Just get me out of here. And there were many attempts to politically and others through media tried to get him out. But 15 months in a Rio prison with a cup of rice and some black beans each day, that was it. That actually kind of doesn't make life very much fun. You got to understand, he lived a high life in Sydney.
I mean, that was what a wow. I feel like did he walk away from that with like a spiritual experience with a like or was he just like didn't believe in humanity anymore, you know?
Well, he brought it on himself.
True.
Firstly, he broke the law in touching his his clients' trust accounts to help himself survive. He thinking he would pay it back if everything went right. But it was self-inflicted in so much as, why did he go to Brazil? Now,
Yeah.
he's like a prodigal son because he lost everything. He lost his family. He lost his wealth. He lost his station in life. He lost his friends. There wasn't much more that wasn't stripped away because all his assets were put into administration. So the home, the business, the farm, the bus company, blah, 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 the empire, it was gone. And he was our family lawyer. So what you have to understand is my father. My father had a dream. And my father, who we all thought was an idiot, said, if I had lost everything, lost my place in society as a well-respected lawyer, my wife divorces me while I'm overseas, and I have no friends, he said, I'd like to think somebody, somewhere, would give me a second chance. And so I was invited by my father down to the police cells to meet this man who I wanted nothing to do with, right? I'd read the headline, bad, bad boy. I wanted nothing to do with. And I underscore that because 3 weeks later, he asked me to marry him and I said yes.
Oh, Helen, when you know, you know.
You know. And so you can imagine the world was against us. He was 20 years older, divorced, penniless, and with a criminal record. So what decent parent would actually say, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
I love this for you. Great idea.
So my parents were convinced he was going to ruin my life. And at birthday parties later down in life, he would get up and make a speech and say, I was supposed to ruin Helen's life, but clearly I failed. Because we had a wonderful marriage of 46 years. And but we eloped because we could. He didn't want me to be the focus of media attention, which would have happened had I become Mrs. Glanville before he was sentenced. But I had just finished my nursing training. I became a registered nurse. That took 3 years here. And 6 weeks later, I planned this secret wedding. And we swore all our guests to secrecy. And back in the day, the Anglican Church would not marry a divorcee. So we had to shift from this diocese north to another diocese. So there you go. I picked him up from the prison. He had 1 day a month out to socialise, and it's called it's called day leave. And he got permission from the prison, and we got everything lined up. And it was just a beautiful day and one of the best decisions I ever made. Even though the world was against us, my parents were informed the next day. It didn't make them very happy. But you know what softened them? The first grandchild. So we delivered. And we had two boys. And that just softens people's hearts when you produce grandchildren.
Well, and I think too, your father's example of the second chance, like that to me is the beauty of all of this. And was that something that he demonstrated, I mean, throughout your life? Or was there a moment when someone gave you a second chance when you felt undeserving of one? Because that's a big second chance to give someone. I know love conquers all. I do really believe that, but
Well, the seriousness of the situation was that back in the day, in the mid-70s, our family home was worth $54,000. The bail, the guarantee bail by the courts was $50,000. So we're talking about, I'm the eldest of 5. We're talking about my parents signing up to allowing this man to come out into the community, and he had to report to the police twice a day, morning and night. The police came to the home and told my father he was an idiot, and that this Glanville could be a flight risk. But because my father had visited Jeff and had conversations and understood that he truly had turned around, he was repentant, if you like, and that's why my father helped. However, when Jeff went to my father to seek, may I have your daughter's hand in marriage, my father said, well, I wanted to help you, Jeff, but I wasn't planning on giving you my daughter. So he put him back in prison. He withdrew the bail.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. But that only lasted a few months because his cousin came forward. They reduced the amount down to 35,000, and his cousin came forward, and so that was sort of okay. But it was a shock. It was a shock.
I bet. And how do you, the two of you navigating this? I'm thinking, so my husband and I, it'll be 11 years this year. We have two young boys, actually, 6 and 4. But marriage is hard enough, without, everyone being against you, without your family being against you. What was that like, feeling like it was just maybe you two against the world,
Exactly, it was. And I kept saying, well, in that first 3 weeks, how do you know? How do you know I'm the one? He'd say, I know, I just know. And he was captivated. He actually adored me. It was a wonderful marriage. It really was. He'd learnt some pretty heavyweight lessons from his first marriage, and he was remorseful. He didn't want us to fall into those traps, and he made communication a very big emphasis in our marriage. But when you ask about had I been given a second chance, well, I was not the perfect wife. I actually failed him, and I failed myself, and I didn't meet him at the gate for his release. I got caught up with a bit of mind control from this man. I was so naive. I thought if you look somebody in the eye, they wouldn't lie straight to your eyes, if you get my drift. I was that naive. So there was a bit of a 6-month hiccup in my life, and we were reunited eventually, and Jeff forgave me, because I had messed up and got associated with this guy. I think I was emotionally weary. I think I was tired. I was from the age of 24 was when we married. Anyhow, finally we came to South Australia to start a new life with a new wife. Everything was new. And we helped each other. One of the things in the book, I've got a book here. I don't know if you can see it. It's called, See How Good Looking He Was.
A second chance. Yeah, for those that are just listening and not watching. But yes, he is very handsome.
Yeah. Now that's when he was 46. And obviously I was 26. But this book really, every chapter starts with a quote about the significance of forgiveness. So we've quoted Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and would you believe, even Kevin Costner has a quote about forgiveness. So every chapter commences with the significance of forgiveness, because we actually put ourselves into a prison when we say things like, I will never forgive you. We then are harboring grudges and resentment, and those little things, they're like barbs that come into our heart. Now, we don't have to trust that person again, but we do have to forgive them for our sake, to set us free. Because if you choose to remain, have no forgiveness whatsoever to someone in particular, you have a grudge, it's a bit like drinking poison and hoping the other person will get better. And it just doesn't work. So we need to have every day we need to forgive even ourselves, We shouldn't let the sun go down at night on our anger, for example, especially in marriage. you know?
I love that. No, it's true. But the forgiving ourselves, the forgiveness to me when I started my like spiritual and healing journey was one of the hardest. And it was, I have a Kundalini meditation I love to do. Kundalini is just a type of yoga of awareness. But my mentor and teacher told me that when you're forgiving, you're actually giving forward to your future. That actually you're giving forward to your future self. When you can't forgive, you're getting stuck in the past. You're leaving your energy there. You're keeping your energy, stuck within your body. So really, like, forgiveness is for your future self. It's for, the beauty that's to come. And you're exactly right. The only person you hurt is yourself when you hold on to that anger, because how long do we really have in this life anyway? We don't have that long. It's the blink of an eye, truly, if you think about how long Earth has been around. Like, do you really want to spend that time being angry? And especially when you have found your person, because that to me is like, well, I'm not leaving. So we could either argue and hate each other and this could turn really bitter, or we can communicate. Because I feel like there's a difference there. I don't know. My generation, there's been a lot of divorce. I'm a product of, divorce. My parents divorced when I was younger. I think it's necessary for certain people, but I think my generation sometimes doesn't try and doesn't actually stay in a marriage and communicate and realize that, like, you have to fall in love, again and again with one another. Is that what it felt like for you over 47 years?
Personally, I'm a baby boomer, okay? So I think there is a lack of commitment in some of these younger generations, and also entitlement. It's too hard. Therefore, I'll just do a trade-in. Hello. Why? Because you see, you've got these marriages that go on for 40, 50, 60 years, and you think, wow, how did they do it? And they have formulas, they have tips, they have a technique, but they're still in love because they're working on it, but they're committed. And they're committed. Yeah. So I think that forgiveness is so essential. And as a Christian, Jesus said to forgive 70 times 7. Now, you can do the math, but quite frankly, really what it means is infinity. Because it's just forever and ever and ever. Always forgive. Always forgive. For your own peace of mind, for your own heart. We have to protect our hearts. And we can't afford to have barbs or poison come on in. But the good news is the medical profession have done their own analysis on forgiveness, and they've actually come up with 7 medical benefits. One of which is
I didn't know
blood. Oh yeah, your health, because this toxin backfires in our system, and when people forgive, some people just get better from whatever sickness they've got. And I haven't got the list of 7 benefits now, but if you were to Google the 7 benefits of forgiveness, you'll find the medical, they're out there, they've found them. And
I mean, I would believe it. I feel like I've felt it and seen it in my physical body, that in doing the forgiveness work over the years and the meditation I do specifically, you're like kind of punching out of your heart. So you're moving, any barbed energy out of that area. You can feel the difference in your physical body, truly. Because it stays there. And we've experienced the energy of our mothers and our grandmothers, because our eggs genetically, right, have been around. We were a little egg inside of our mother, inside of our grandmother. And so all of that energy doesn't go anywhere. It continues. And so I think about that a lot of the times too, that, the energy that you're carrying from your family line, whether it's the stories of, I don't know, not being able to commit, or the family story of, oh, we've always hated so-and-so, or we've always had a war with so-and-so.
Yeah, like feuds, like family feuds, you hear about them in all different cultures, this family, that tribe, whatever, historically. And quite frankly, there never will be peace in that society, whether it's Ireland or Scotland or wherever. There are feuds. And it's almost as if it just transfers from generation to generation. And I do think we learn hate and disrespect from our parents. Like the children of prisoners that we work with, they often disrespect anyone in authority. whether it be a teacher, a policeman, a priest, whatever, because they're taught to disrespect. Whereas I was taught to respect anyone in authority. My school teacher, the police, the pastor of the church. You respect them, and whenever disrespect enters, it's almost the beginning of chaos and the breaking down. You don't have to agree, but you at least respect the authority that they have, because what they're doing is for the betterment of the community. You know, they're not the enemy.
No.
If you get
I think everyone these days, it's black and white. It's right or wrong. You know, they're the enemy. We're the victim. They're the villain. And I was thinking about that this morning, that really to live, I think, a full, a vibrant and intentional life that you love, you're in the shades of gray. You realize that as a human, we're meant to feel every single spectrum of those emotions. And so if you can't allow yourself to feel that forgiveness, if you can't allow yourself to feel that empathy or that compassion, like, wow, you're really missing out. Because yes, it can hurt to let someone in your heart like that, but wow, what love you can feel on the other side. Because guess what? If you can feel the emotion that's over here, you can feel that equal and opposite emotion on the other side. And I feel like we stay too much in that hate or that animosity, when if we could only realize that, wow, if we could feel that much animosity, wow, we can also feel that much love.
Well, hate is toxic. It's very toxic. It's very destructive. And sometimes hate comes from the source of fear. And
yes.
fear is controlling. Fear cripples us. Fear freezes our thinking and our emotions. It paralyzes our creativity. Fear is the enemy. Fear can move in like a cloud and just destroy any dream or any opportunity. I won't do that because I'm actually afraid. I'm afraid, and so therefore faith hasn't got a place. And the two ends, there's sort of like, there's this saying, when fear knocked at the door, I sent faith to answer it. And faith is the thing that helps us overcome.
I love that.
You know, and the fear and the faith tension is really what is going on in the battleground of our mind, because fear is spoken often by the words and the power of the words that we have. We even have self-talk, and our self-talk can be over and over again, and we're saying destructive thoughts. And you know, there's an old proverb that says, the power of life and death is in the tongue. So we can speak well about ourselves, to ourselves, and we can speak well. I have the power to destroy you. Do you know that? I could, with my tongue, I could tear bits off you. I could tear you down. I could put you down. I could curse you. Conversely, the same tongue can speak well, can encourage, can build you up, can, you know, lift you up to a place of where you maximize your gifts and have vision and dream again. And so some people have had vision for their life, they've had dreams for their life, but somehow it got knocked out of them, and because they've allowed fear to take over.
That is, this just feels so relevant for right now. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because I think there is a lot of fear, yes, in the world and what's happening, but even in women in their everyday. That's the woman that I work with is the woman that's in transition, that's at that threshold, that has to look that fear in the face and decide to walk through it. And it's not easy, especially when you're up against old patterns or old stories, or, you know, this is how everyone's always done it. Yeah. You were a trailblazer. What did that feel like? And what advice would you have for someone that wants to do it differently, that wants to look the fear in the face and maybe wants to forgive, but doesn't know how, or hasn't been shown that as an example?
Well, it's called courage. You need courage, and you need to fear not. And when I say fear not, that sounds very old-fashioned phrase, but it's true, because in the Bible, 365 times is the expression, fear not. How many days in the year? Fear not. How many times do we have to be told, fear not? Because very often we'll fear something that really had no consequence. But as time passed, we look back and think, what the heck was I worried about? Because you got through it. So what do they say the meaning of fear is? False evidence appearing real. Right? We know that. So if false evidence, so you've got to look at the facts. You've got to assess. I mean, it's always good to have a buddy or a partner or someone you can share your fears with. But at the end of the day, they have to be countered with a courageous, faith-like statement. So they've done some research and they've found out, and I think it was in Sweden, that what makes people happy, why are they so happy in Scandinavia? And it turns out that they've done all this research, and the statement that can make us happy first thing in the morning is, these are the best days.
I just got like the full body chills. They are the best days.
Are the best days. And we say that, and we affirm that, and we believe that, and we walk in it. Right? Now, we can walk in self-fulfilling prophecies. So the reason I can speak with authority on this is my own childhood. Unfortunately, my father would put me down, tell me I'd be a failure, tell me I wouldn't be successful, tell me I wouldn't make it, all of this. And you know, when you're a little girl, you believe your dad. You think that everything that comes out of his mouth must be right. And then it goes to your head, these words. And then after the first 10 years of your life, they sink. They actually sink down into your heart, into your spirit. And then you start believing the lie, and then you walk in it. And you say to yourself, I am going to be a failure. I will not be successful, and so forth, because Dad said so. And if we listen to the power of those words, anyhow, so fortunately what happened for me, Jeff entered my life. And he said, you can do whatever you want to do. And he was there, encouraging me, speaking words of life, telling me I could do whatever I wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? He helped me through.
And that's important to hear that, and I know there's 5 different love languages and some people show love in different ways, but words matter. They're spells, you're speaking into existence the things that you want. And I love that he nourished you in that way. Because to me, I love doing a writing exercise with women on retreat called gateless writing, where instead of giving them critical feedback, you feed them with nourishing words and tell them like what had truth and love and beauty about what they wrote. And you watch these women blossom and open. And I can just imagine how much you blossomed and opened with him being of service in that way to you. Because to me, men should always cherish us and honor us and treat us like we are truly queens, because that's when we can open. That's when we can provide and nurture and, take care of the home and do all the feminine things that we're supposed to do. But without that man providing, I truly believe kind of that structure and that nest of support, it can be so hard.
Correct. That's because encouragement is nourishment.
Yes, it is. I love that.
So if I encourage you, you're going to take those words on board. You're going, oh, Helen said that to me, and you don't, even if you don't repeat it like that, you do, it goes into you and you think, wow, and it makes you feel good. And you'll always be drawn to people who make you feel good. I'm a great believer in trying to bring joy into a situation, because I think there's a lack of joy in the world. And joy makes us bubbly, and it gives us hope, and I think that it feeds our creativity. So we are creative beings, whether we like it or not. We were born to be creative, whether it's a fancier way to be a petrol head and do the mechanics on a car, or whether it's another creative way of writing or the arts and music. But creativity can be in any dynamic, in any field. And you can be creative about the way you do your housework. You can dance and sing. There's other ways of doing things that are fun, and I think people aren't looking for the fun. They aren't necessarily thinking that, well, if I change my self-talk and I talk to myself that and believe myself that I am beautiful and I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Do you know what I'm saying? And we have to take all this on board because we have this computer here. Garbage in, garbage out. You know that. So this is where the battlefield is in our mind. How
What
we
a way to
put
put that. It's so true, though. It's so true.
Yeah. So we are dealing with the crap that the world spews out. And yet we have to know who we are and we have to defend our position and we have to believe that our mind, and this is the one thing no one will ever be able to take from you, Victoria, and that's your mind. And you determine what you allow in. You determine and choose. Everything's a choice. You know, I get up today and I'm going to choose joyful thoughts. And I'm going to be an inspiration to my friend who I'm having coffee with today. Do you know what I mean? You actually go in determined with a mission. As simple as having coffee with your girlfriend. I'm going to go in and I'm going to bring her joy. I'm going to speak words of life into her soul. I'm going to build her up. You know what I mean? That should be our role in life.
You know what? That is my mission. And everyone listening, I hope that you take that as a little bit of soul work with you from this episode, that every interaction from here on out, being that intentional about it and realizing that you have the capacity to shift the energy of a room just by being yourself and just by shifting your own energy. And honestly, on the vibrational scale of emotions, joy is the highest vibration. And it is contagious. It is absolutely contagious. So I love that we're sharing that because I'm going to look at my interactions differently moving forward. Helen, how can folks get in touch with you? What coaching things you have going on? I know the book is out there. Please let us know how folks can work with you, get a hold of you, all of that good stuff.
Okay, well, my focus at the moment is the book. I'm actually toying with getting a script writer to turn it into a movie. I'm actually working with, yeah. So it's kind of exciting. I'm very nervous about that. But the book was blessed by my husband 10 days before he passed. And, you know, the whole event for the way he died was a very beautiful experience. We were on our houseboat together. My husband, fortunately, never lost his marbles. His mind was strong. He was trained. I mean, he had 3 degrees. He was a lawyer. He was smart and sharp. He knew how to do analytical thinking. And this is something I think that many of our youth aren't trained to do analytical thinking.
Yeah, I would agree.
To actually, you know, really think and think wisely. He was full of wisdom. But this book is available on my website, helenglanville.com. And helenglanville.com has a section there by book. And, you know, I can give it to you to put it up whenever this...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have everything in the show notes so that you guys can purchase and get in touch. Absolutely.
Excellent. So the thing that hits people in America, of course, is the postage. The book is 35 Aussie dollars, which is a little less for you guys. But postage is crazy. Something stupid like $29 or something.
I was like, is it the price of the book?
Yeah. So I am also working with a company to get it up electronically. I just went out there and self-published because I couldn't get a publishing company to get behind me, and I thought, blow this, I'm just going to do it. I put my hand deep in my pocket, and now it exists, and I think I've got about 18 reviews on Goodread.
Amazing.
And, yeah. So
you're just getting started.
Sorry?
No, I said you're just getting started.
Correct. So, I have had a 3-page newspaper article here in Adelaide. I don't know if you've got the magazine over there called Take 5, but we have a magazine called Take 5. Just last week I got a big 2-page spread in that. So I do speaking appointments. So what I really want to do is just get in front of an audience and tell my story. And like today, a lady bought 3 books off me. And I said, why are you buying 3? She said, well, I know I want to give them away. So I signed the first book for her. And then she said, no, I want the other 2 because I know that when the time I read it, I'm going to want them as gifts for other people. Wasn't that sweet?
Exactly. Well, you know what? And hey, anyone in the US, that's a great way for the shipping. Buy like 5 books and give them away as gifts. And then that way, the shipping makes a little bit more sense. So
There you
thank you
go.
so much, Helen. It's been just such an honor to talk with you and to see what an open and beautiful heart you have and your reminders for forgiveness and second chances and compassion. I hope everyone listening has enjoyed this conversation as much as I have in having it. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share this conversation with a friend or a woman who just needs to have 2 women chatting about love, relationships, second chances. I'll be here next week. Yes, exactly. Every Tuesday, I'm here. Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. Be good to one another. I love you. We'll chat real soon. Mwah.
Thank you.